The development of human culture began with the use of writing systems since around 5,000 years ago.
There are many character sets used throughout the world. Which set of characters do you think is the best? You probably think the Roman alphabet is the best. It actually is recognized as the most highly developed alphabet system since consonants and vowels are separately used. However, you probably wouldn't believe me if I were to say that there is an alphabet system that was developed in a much more scientific way and easy to write. Let's listen to a world-renowned academic who has done extensive research on this issue.
You said in your article in Discovery magazine that Korean alphabet Hangeul is one of the most developed alphabets which have ever been invented by human beings. Why do you think so?
I think it's the best alphabet ever developed by humans for 4 reasons. First, the excellent match of sounds to letters. In many alphabets, including English, there's a very poor match. Second, the distinction in Hangeul between the forms of vowels and the forms of letters. The vowels resemble each other, the consonants resemble each other. Indeed, different groups of consonants, K and G, P and B, resemble each other. The third feature is unique among all the writing systems of the world. Hangeul letters resemble the shape in which the mouth and lips and tongue are being held as they pronounce that particular letter. And then finally, Hangeul is unique in combining the virtues of an alphabet with a syllabary. Hangeul groups letters together in blocks, like the blocks of Chinese writing, but those groups are syllables. And so you can read Hangeul quickly, syllable by syllable, but also within the syllabary blocks, the individual letters have their own forms, and so a slight mistake only affects one letter. It does not affect the whole syllable.
Well, you're a scientist, particularly a physiologist in medical school. How did you get interested in Korean alphabet, Hangeul?
My work in science involves work in evolutionary biology, so I'm interested in the evolution of species. I've also become interested in human evolution and the evolution of human culture, which means technology, government, religion, and writing. And when I became interested in the evolution of writing, I learned that the Korean Hangeul alphabet, about which before I had known nothing, was considered the most accurate and sophisticated writing system in the world. So that got me interested in Hangeul.
Hangeul can be easily learned and mastered by children even before they enter kindergarten. Once they are taught, children are able to spell accurately. This is possible because each letter can only represent one sound.
I started 2.5.
Even foreigners can learn how to write in Korean after a few hours of instruction.
When I began, I thought that it was quite simple. And it was strange to me because, when I would meet people there, they would be so surprised if, I had only had 1 semester, so that was barely anything, but they were still surprised if I could just speak a little bit. And then they were even more surprised if you knew how to write it. And it just seemed strange to me because, I don't know, I thought that it was easy to learn. I think.
This is my 2nd semester taking Korean, and I actually really enjoy it. Surprisingly, no. But when I first learned Hangeul, I was surprised at how easy it was to learn.
The King Sejong literacy prize.
Since Hangeul is known to be the easiest alphabet to learn, there is an extremely low illiteracy rate in Korea. As a result, King Sejong, the creator of Hangeul, was selected as the namesake for the UNESCO King Sejong Literacy Prize.
This year, they are awarded
The UNESCO established this prize in 1989 to honor those organizations or individuals that were most responsible for reducing world illiteracy. Hangeul is referred to as morning letters because it can be simply learned in a single morning. Today, Korea is recognized as the country with the highest literacy rate in the world. The World Literacy Prize was named after the creator of Hangeul, King Sejong the Great, to recognize this fact.
Koreans commemorate October 9th as the Korean alphabet Hangeul Day because in 1446, the Korean alphabet Hangeul was born in this world.
What do you think about a day where the people celebrate the creation of an alphabet? You may think that these people are truly strange. However, Koreans take great pride in this day and express their gratitude for the creation of Hangeul. Moreover, Hangeul is a way to introduce to the world the Korean culture. Hangeul Day is not just a way to commemorate the creation of the world's finest alphabet, but it's also a chance to emphasize that this alphabet is unique to having its own birthday. Hangeul is the only alphabet that was deliberately invented on a particular day. An American linguist, Professor Macaulay of Chicago University, also organizes a Hangeul Day celebration every October 9th.
Hangeul is the most ingeniously devised writing system that exists, and it occupies a special place in the typology of writing systems. So it's the only writing system in the world that divides sentences not only into words and syllables and individual sounds, but also articulatory features. And the achievement of its creators in the 1440s was really amazing. I mean, they were doing work that would qualify as excellent linguistics by the standards of 500 years later. So, it's an amazing achievement. And the fact that there is a day that is devoted to the celebration of its adoption is, I think, an excellent reason for linguists the world over to have parties and claim it as our holiday. So that's the reason why I have been having my own Hangeul party every year for the last 20 years or so, and inviting over my linguist friends, students, colleagues, miscellaneous friends, and serving lots of Korean food and gathering in a celebration of our holiday.
I know that by now you are interested in finding out more about the roots of Hangeul. This alphabet was created and distributed in 1446 during King Sejong's reign in the Korean Middle Ages. We shall now return to this period in history to understand the reasons and the rationale behind the creating Hangeul. First of all, let's listen to Professor Kang Shin-hang, who has done extensive research on Hangeul, or as it was originally called, 훈민정음.
세종대왕께서는 백성들이 자기 뜻을
King Sejong personally created an alphabet so that the people could use to write down their thoughts, whatever and whenever they wanted to, and transcribe Chinese or any other foreign language into the new Korean alphabet system. He then translated and transcribed the sacred Confucian and Buddhist books so as to educate the population and create an ideal government.
만든 뜻이 분명한 글자는 아주 드문 예에 속합니다.
This is the building which housed the Jipyeonjeon, the Academy of Worthies, where King Sejong and his scholars worked night and day to develop the alphabet. On October 9, 1446, Hangeul was finally completed and promulgated to the world. King Sejong explains the motivation for the creation of Hangeul as follows.
The sounds of our country's language are different from those of China and are not confluent with the sounds of the Chinese characters. Therefore, among the ignorant people, there have been many who, having something they want to put into words, have in the end been unable to express their feelings. I have been distressed because of this, and have newly designed 28 letters, which I wish to have everyone practice at their ease and make convenient for their daily use.
Recently, it has been established, at least in my opinion, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that King Sejong created the alphabet himself. The documentation is there. It was King Sejong. The other matter is, why did King Sejong create the alphabet? The fact of the matter is that the simplest explanation is correct. He was concerned about his people. He wanted to raise their level of education. This is something that's been called into question because it seems to be an anachronism. But fortunately, we have the text of the Hunmin Jeongum, the promulgation document, which makes it clear, beyond a shadow of a doubt, in the introduction to that, what Sejong intended. In this simple but moving passage, King Sejong tells us why he invented the alphabet.
The original Hunmin Jeongum text is preserved here in Gangseong Art Museum.
King Sejong, when he introduced the Hunmin Jeongum alphabet, he published a book with the same name as the alphabet system, also called Hunmin Jeongum, which is the original document of the Hangeul alphabet. In this book, King Sejong explains why he created the alphabet, how many characters there are, how the letter system works, the theory behind the creation of letters, and their use. This is not a mere source of pride for Koreans, but should be considered a valuable intellectual asset, second to none in the entire world.
This original text is composed of promulgation document and scholarly commentary called Hunmin Jeongum Haerae, explanations and examples of the correct sounds for the instruction of the people. We will now describe what this original text says about Hangeul's formation. Hangeul vowels were developed based on the three elements found in Oriental philosophy's principle of duality. These three elements are heaven, earth, and man. The dot symbolizes heaven, called Area. Although we don't use this letter today, it was an important letter at the time of invention. This horizontal line symbolizes earth. This vertical line symbolizes a person standing. These three vowels may be used not only as vowel letters themselves, but also as fundamental elements combining to create all of the other vowels. The dot depicting heaven was pronounced a, as in nut, when it was used by itself. The horizontal line, symbolizing earth, is pronounced when it is used by itself as a basic vowel. The vertical line is pronounced e when it is used by itself. This combined letter, dot above the horizontal line, is pronounced similar to o, as in coat. This combined letter, dot outside the vertical line, is pronounced similar to the a in father. This combined letter, dot under the horizontal line, is pronounced in a way similar to the u in rude. This combined letter, dot inside the vertical line, is pronounced similar to the in early. According to the original document, a dot added to the basic vowels will result in the creation of the secondary vowels. Yo, ya, yu, ya. So the inventors of the Korean alphabet combined the dot and the bar to form various vowels used in the alphabet. If we use the stroke to replace the dot for convenience, we get the following. E, we, we. These characters were initially two vowels and eventually combined into one. The following compound vowels are used today as they were in the past. Ye, wa, we, wo, we. If we look at the original Hangeul text, we can see that Korean consonants were made following the shape of the speech organs as they made the sound. This book classified Korean consonants into 5 types: velars, alveolars, labials, spirants, and laryngeals. The original document states that these consonants were shaped to mimic the tongue root, as it blocked the windpipe in producing a sound such as k. This g sound is similar to the weak k sound, as in ski or kid. The k sound is basically the g sound with a strong aspiration. It is similar to the k sound as in Korea, which is produced with a strong aspiration. This is a g or glottal k. There is no separate letter to denote this sound in English, so this is another sound that is merely marked with the letter k. K, k, g. This is a ng as in the ng sound found in song. This has changed into the circle in modern Korean from the original and is read as kang. The letters for the alveolar consonants mentioned in the original document were based on the shape of the tip of the tongue touching the teeth to form a n. This n is equivalent to the end sound in pin. The d letter denotes an explosive or stop sound similar to a lax t sound as in 10. Although there are differences in pronunciation between the d and n sound, they are grouped together because the points of articulation are identical. The letter t is an aspirated t sound as in tower. The process for making this sound is the same as a d, with the only difference being that this one is more aspirated. The d letter is a tense sound. There is no such letter that represents this sound in English. The Korean language is the only one which has a letter to denote a difference between the two sounds. N, d, t, d. The r is a letter that can be noted as either an L sound or an R sound in English. Since there is only one consonant for these sounds in Korean, there is no way to differentiate between the L and the R sound. When we look at the original document, the bilabial consonants were made to appear like the shape of the mouth in forming them. The M letter depicts a sound similar to the M sound found in English. The B letter depicts an explosive sound formed between the lips. This sound is similar to the lax P sound found in pin. The P letter depicts a strong aspirated P as in power. The B letter denotes a tense or glottal sound. Since there is no need to distinguish this sound from others, there is no representative letter in English. M, P, P, B. In the original text, the spirants were originally noted by the letter S to denote the shape of the teeth and probably were meant to indicate the incisors. This S indicates a fricative sound similar to the S sound in sky or still. The j is similar to a slightly weak ch sound, as in chin. The ch is a more aspirated version of the ch sound, as in church or chalk. The ch in Korean distinguishes itself by being aspirated as compared to the lax ch. The s letter denotes a tense s sound that is not differentiated as a particular letter in English. However, you can hear this sound when the s precedes a vowel, as in sin, sorry, or same. The j is a tense sound. This is another character that doesn't get differentiated in English, and therefore there is no particular letter for it. S, ch, ch, s, j. The zh is the letter for a voiced sound. It sounds the same as a z in zone and zip. It is no longer used in modern Korean, as the voice sound is not considered to be a distinctive feature. Laryngeal consonants were made to resemble the round throat cavity. This is a silent zero letter. It is placed in front of the vowels and operates as a silent place-holding letter. This letter is representative of a temporary stoppage of the throat and is referred to as a glottal stop. This h letter is the same glottal fricative as the h sound in hint and home. There are 3 laryngeal consonants, but the h is the only one still in use. The theory behind combining vowels and consonants into syllables and then into words was explained in the Hunminjeongeum. These are all syllables made up of a consonant and vowel combination. As you combine these syllables, you get words. K, O, ko, which means nose in English. K, a, kam, which means persimmon in English. All these syllables are made up of initial consonant, middle vowel, and a final consonant. S, E, J, O, Sejong, which refers to King Sejong in English. The Korean's alphabet superiority lies in the fact that over 11,000 different syllables can be formed by combining consonants and vowels. In contrast to this, Chinese characters can form 50,000 syllables, while Japanese kana can only form 300 syllables. The most important superiority of Hangul is the excellent match of letters to sounds. For instance, the vowel letter a in any given context is always pronounced the same way as a. So every time this sound is heard, it can be spelled correctly. However, the English equivalent vowel A is pronounced differently depending on the situation. For example, about, call, game, father, apple.
We now know how the Hangul alphabet came about and the theories its inventor based himself on as he designed new alphabet 550 years ago. Now let's talk about its merits with some linguists.
Hangeul has no equal in the history of writing systems anywhere in the world. These weren't just 28 letters developed separately, but rather each letter derived from characters, from basic forms. It is especially significant in that the consonant letters are shaped based on the speech organs. They are then reunited into syllabic units of vowels and consonants. This whole development process is particularly remarkable, even in terms of modern linguistics.
Thanks to this record, we know that the simple and geometric letter shapes of the Korean alphabet were designed according to very scientific linguistic principles, even by today's standards. The inventor of the alphabet understood the articulatory characteristics of each sound, and more important, the phonological relationships that hold between various sounds.
And yet here in your nation, in a very distant part of the world, your predecessors created a writing system which is, in a sense, it goes beyond the alphabetic principle. It not only analyzes words into sounds, which is in itself an analytic achievement, a scientific achievement, but it goes further and analyzes the sounds into the individual features of the sound. In English, we have a T and an N, and they're related sounds, but if you look at the letters T and N, there's no graphical relationship. They're just different letters. But in Hangeul, you have your N sign, which shows the tongue touching the roof of the mouth, and then the T is the same as an N phonetically, but you make an additional movement with the mouth. You lower your soft palate, and there in the Hangeul N, you can see the line across the top, which shows the relationship phonetically between the T and the N, and the principle runs all the way through the Hangeul script. There is no other script in normal use in the world that goes to this degree of scientific analysis, and I find it really quite amazing that more than half a millennium ago such a script should have been created and come into use. I and I think many other Western linguists who know enough about Korean to be aware of this find this a quite fascinating phenomenon.
There are three basic types of writing systems in the world. These can be divided into ideogram, like Chinese characters, syllabic systems like the kana of Japan, and phonetic systems such as the Roman and Hangeul alphabets. These writing systems weren't merely made in different eras, but also have significant functional differences. Hangeul is the world's most advanced phonetic alphabet and is actually one stage above the Roman alphabet. This should be one of Korea's greatest sources of pride.
Furthermore, many foreign linguists, such as Professor William O'Grady of University of Hawaii and Professor Donald Baker at University of British Columbia in Canada, acknowledge Hangeul's superiority.
If we look at the original 훈민정음, we see that King Sejong created many characters which are not in use today. Why were these characters created?
King Sejong, with the help of the Sayugon, adapted the new alphabet Hangeul to translate Chinese, Mongol, and Japanese into Korean. In addition to the ordinary Hangeul for Korean language proper, special letters were made in order to more transcribe Chinese, Mongol, or Manchu pronunciations. This is important in that it shows King Sejong's ambition to make his alphabet into a global alphabet used by different countries and languages. In accordance with King Sejong's noble dream, a prominent linguist has proposed Hangeul as the new international phonetic alphabet. King Sejong's unending passion in designing this alphabet with complete consistency and logic is quite visible even today. Many records in Chinese characters were then transcribed into Hangeul and also adapted Hangeul as a subject of the official state exams. The laws and regulations written in Chinese characters were rewritten in new alphabet systems. Moreover, Hangeul was freely available to all with translation of classic works, such as poetry and essays like Yongbi Ochonga, Walin Chonggangjigok, Warin Sokbo, and the like, as well as Buddhist sacred books. In this way, the inventors of the Hangeul alphabet allowed both noble scholars and commoners to have Hangeul texts at their disposal. In the 1800s, as Christian missionaries slowly infiltrated Korea, they recognized the value of Hangeul and used it to translate theology and religious books. This was the first time that Hangeul was recognized by Westerners. Even Protestant Christians started to translate their sacred writings into Korean. Through this easy reading material, Korean society began to be modernized. Hangeul was gradually accepted from this time, and the publication of the first Hangeul paper, the 독립신문, called The Independent in English, heralded a new era for Hangeul. The great scholar Sejong was a pioneer in the field of Korean studies, as he continued to emphasize the importance of both the Korean alphabet and language. He sincerely believed that a country's destiny, be it good or bad, is completely dependent on the worth of a country's language and letters. In order to enhance the Korean language, he established a school which had such outstanding students as Sejong. These ensured that Koreans would prosper in the future.
That we were able to take up Hangeul and make it into such a convenient alphabet was... The great benevolent King Sejong was the first to actually invent and develop Hangeul. But we also have to thank those martyrs and great pioneers who even gave their life for it. Hangeul has, as of yet, not received all the recognition that it should. Abroad, everyone recognizes Hangeul's practicality and ease of use. Here in Korea, however, I don't think everybody recognizes the value of this alphabet and its worth. I think that we, should to do that, is within our power to develop and recognize Hangeul.
The National Language Research Center, an institute of the Korean government, is responsible for research and trying to resolve the issues concerning the practice of Korean language. Koreans will never be able to survive without the use of Hangeul. Culture, academics, as well as everyday activities all rely heavily on Hangeul. For the countless children who have mastered the Hangeul alphabet, it goes without saying for them to show keen interest in quickly learning how to type Hangeul with the computer. When writing personal letters, however, there are still many children who write by hand. Almost 10 million personal computers are in use in Korea. This means that Hangeul is very appropriate for the information era, and that the use of it for the computer is expanding every day.
As we say that Hangeul is the most philosophically and scientifically complete alphabet, the Korean people obviously have the longest tradition of using it. Hangeul cannot continue to be merely Korea's anymore. As Korea becomes a more influential global power, there is an increased interest in Korea and the Korean language. People are coming from all over the world to learn Korean.
먼저 듣고 따라하세요. 이번 연휴에는 뭘 하실 거예요? 이번 연휴에는 뭘 하실 거예요?
Many of the foreign students who are coming to Korea start to study Hangeul and the writing system. Business people, foreign civil servants, clergy, and military personnel all are working hard to learn Korean.
Hello, good morning. Today we are going to talk about Hangeul, which is the Korean
In this class, students are discussing about Hangeul at a Korean language institute.
As I write down my name, you can see how easy it is to write it in Korean, in Hangeul.
A student from Sri Lanka is describing how his own alphabet and Hangeul's alphabet's writing system have some very similar consonants. institutes where foreign students can come to learn Korean. The number of people learning Korean is increasing every year, even outside of Korea. The children of Korean Americans are especially eager to learn more of their roots. In Southern California, there is even a special Korean school for children. Any child who has interest in Korea can attend this school. As the school solves linguistic problems of Korean American children, it is gradually becoming more and more popular. Korean classes teach the Korean American children how to speak and write in Korean. They hold classes during the weekend in borrowed school buildings or churches. These children receive all their classes in English during the week, but when they come to this school, they are acquainted with Korean culture and language. There are about 800 such schools throughout the United States. In Japan, not only Korean descendants, but also Japanese students learn Korean in the universities. The Korean department was established in 1987 at Kanda University of Foreign Studies. More than 100 students are currently majoring in Korean at this school. At the Tokyo University of Foreign Studies, the Tozan Study Center was formed in 1897. There are currently 158 students majoring in Korean.
참 오래간만입니다.